So, welcome back. This is Jack Wallen here with Writer to Writer, a new video cast that I started such that readers and other writers could look into the brains of writers. Not that you really want to, because you never know what you're going to find when you do that. Today, I have the very special pleasure of speaking with someone that I met at the Imaginarian convention and was just kind of struck blind by her aura and her personality and her costumes,
Oh,
which
my
were always
costume.
glorious. This is Tracy Broyles, ladies and gentlemen, everybody. Tracy Broyles.
Hi, nice to see you again, Jack. Sort of.
To see you.
To see.
Yeah.
I use that term loosely anymore.
Yeah, I know. To virtually see you. Yeah, it has been quite a while. I don't even remember. You know, I stopped going to the Imaginarium. I was actually thinking about going back this year when all of this kind of hit. So who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, I stopped going because family. So,
Yeah.
Like family priorities always come first. So, and it just interfered and it didn't work. So.
Yeah, and I think the whole convention thing has lost some of its luster.
Agreed.
The last convention I went to, it was kind of like the first convention I went to, where it was a bunch of writers standing around talking to other writers. Not, and the purpose of those conventions is, I mean, let's be transparent about it. The purpose of these conventions is to connect writers and readers. And the last convention I went to, there were a scant few readers and a whole bunch of writers.
I've had the same experience.
Yeah.
So, and if I'm going to do that, I'd rather be in a cabin in the woods with all the writers I like and have a more intimate setting.
Exactly, where you could do what we're going to do right now and actually talk about the art and craft of writing.
Exactly.
So I have one question for you, and it's the question that will kick this whole shebang off. And that question is, what is your process? And I don't mean, are you a pantser or a plotter, which is a fine way to answer the question, but what is the nuts and bolts of your writing process? How does it go? From start to finish, how does it go?
Well, everything starts with some random wacky idea, usually something very tiny, like a scene or a character, or very rarely a theme. What
was the craziest thing that gave you an idea?
When I lived in Seattle, I worked 2 blocks up from Pike Place Market.
Oh, I love that.
So I spent a lot of time down there. Yeah. I would take my lunch breaks and I would go grab something from one of the stands and just sit and watch people. And I had a journal that I kept of people I saw or things that I experienced. And there was one woman, I just called her the bird lady. I mean, pretty much everybody did, because she literally had birds living on her. So she looked like Grandmama from the Addams Family.
Okay.
And dressed like that. I mean, all just black, long cloaks, big black combat boots, and crazy hair. And she literally had a bird nest on her head that was like a hat. I thought it was like fake, but it was real. I mean, and she had birds. She pushed a shopping cart and she had birds in the cart. And I mean, like, everybody called her the bird lady because literally birds lived on her. Wow. And I just wondered, like, it stuck this whole thing going about how somebody takes crazy cat lady and turns into a whole different deal. Because the thing was, a lot of people thought she was homeless, but she wasn't. She just roamed around Pike Market feeding and taking care of the birds. And I just thought that was so, I mean, I talked to her. She was the nicest woman, and she just didn't want to live under anybody's rules. And she had long ago retired, and she just was the most fascinating person ever. But it sparked this whole crazy, insane thing, about if everybody did that. Like once you reach a certain age, you just retired and went and lived whatever your crazy passion was. And, I started brainstorming and my mind is a little nuts. So I went into all these insane places, but she just was the most insane thing I've ever seen. I mean, like in real life, like you can't imagine what that was like. She was just something else.
Wow. I think you said something that's very important. I think that, I'm sorry, I have alarms and everything going on. I think that it is important for artists of all kinds, writers and actors and musicians and directors and painters. I think it's important that we understand that we have to really truly get in touch with our craft. We have to live beyond the bounds of normal society, because if we live within those bounds of normal society, then our scope and the possibilities that are available to us shrink and continue to shrink, and all of a sudden we're only able to create something that is found within the realm of what I call the blue and khaki army. And we have to live beyond that. Otherwise, how do we create?
We don't. And I like to expose the other side of things as much as I can.
Yeah.
I mean, I obviously have a teenage daughter, so I have read a lot of teen fiction lately, and I find it appalling to me how one-dimensional it is. And there should not be a formula to teen fiction. There shouldn't be, because there is no formula for the teen world. No wonder we have so many issues with our teens and mental health and everything like that. And so I try to do things from another side and another angle. Yeah. And I think we need more of that just across the board now than ever.
Right.
I mean,
and formula is the enemy of art.
And I can't do it. No. I can't do it. Like I have tried and I have ghost written things, and I hate every single thing I've done because it's so boring.
It is.
And it feels fake. Yeah. Like it feels wrong. Yeah. Like you're in the Matrix and you see the ripple. Like that's what it feels like. And I don't like that as an artist.
Right. Well, it's like if we as writers, if we as artists, period, were to create, if we were to only draw on the commonplace and create from that and not expound upon that and not allow it to evolve into something other, then all we're doing is a slice of life, and slice of life is boring. Mm-hmm. And because, I mean, let's face it, if we're really honest with ourselves, most of us are pretty, at least on the exterior, most of us are pretty boring people, or not boring people. We live boring lives. We wake up, we go to work, we come home, we rinse, wash, repeat. Mm-hmm. And we can't write that. We can't. If we were to write just that, what are we doing? I mean, how are we being honest with the creative process?
Well, nobody's going to read it.
No, and nobody's going to read it. Exactly. Well, I don't know. There's a cross section of readers that, and I mean, you just, all you have to do is look on the bestseller list, and you strip away all of the biographies and all of that, and you go, okay, what's on there? And you start looking at reading the blurbs, and you're like, yawn.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Well, that's how we feel about a lot of the mainstream popular books. I mean, there are very few that I have enjoyed.
Right.
I mean, it is very hard for me. And then when I don't enjoy it, I read slowly because I just can't. I'm like, I don't like it. And obviously, as writers, we need to read a lot.
Right.
And when I can't find interesting work, Like,
Yeah.
okay.
I was struggling so hard to find something interesting to read, and in some of the various genres that I write, that I wound up reading Midnight in Chernobyl, and which has been really hard because of the status, the state of the world right now, and just reading something that was an absolutely failed government effort to keep something under control. But and at the same time, while you read something like this, you're thinking, is it possible to write something fiction that's as frightening as that?
I
And
don't think so anymore.
yeah, and that's a big problem now.
Mhm.
It didn't used to be this way. It used to be we could go, I'm going to write a zombie book, and it's going to be really scary, and people are going to be, oh my gosh, thank God the world's not like that. And now you look around, you're like, damn, my zombie fiction is tame.
Right, right. Well, when we're seeing, I mean, to this day, one of the scariest books I've ever read is The Stand, because it felt so real at the time. And they have the miniseries coming back out, and I'm going to read it again, but I'm a little horrified because I'm afraid it's going to hit way too close to home. And
Yeah,
some people are drawing those
I
parallels,
know.
but I mean, is it that far off? I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't, and I'm afraid that which is, I think, part of the reason why I pulled back. I had written 13 books in the zombie genre, and I said, I got to stop because I can't compete with reality right now. And I pulled back and I started writing, quirky romance novels
Mhm.
and things like that. And I just needed the break from it, and I couldn't compete anymore with reality, and it it's getting worse.
It's so much worse.
And I don't
I
know.
don't even know.
I think I had to, as a writer, I had to turn inward, just to and this might sound kind of cheesy, but I had to turn inward to kind of put a bubble around my art and protect it, and say, okay, for the time being, like the book I have right now that's being beta read, it's a fictionalized biography of a moment in my life. And I did it partially to revisit that moment in my life because it was a very precious period of my life. So I can go, I just need something positive. And art is so good at that. Art is so good at giving us what we need.
Absolutely. I mean, I have to be honest and say that I've been sort of paralyzed by this whole thing, because the two books I'm working on are both very dark.
Yeah.
And when the world is in such a dark place, it's really hard to write more dark, like more dark, and to find that place in yourself and not just like exist there.
Yeah.
So I've been writing like lighter, just short stories just to keep going. But I mean, I also write for my job, and it's
Right.
all really,
Yeah.
I mean, I write about like dog food and like wheelchair cushions, and
Right.
it's
Right.
just it's exhausting and it's mundane, and
Yeah.
it's but it pays the bills, so that's,
That's
I mean,
exactly.
you got to pay the bills.
By day, I'm a tech writer, and it's nice because, and I've been doing that for 20 years. It's nice because it has absolutely nothing to do with emotion, and
Right.
it's nice to spend a bit of time using your words and not having to dive down into any darkness. And it's it's like it's writing is, or art has always been my salvation. I always tell people that art saved my life, and they think, it's some sort of metaphor. I'm like, no, it literally saved my life. And I I hold it very dearly. And every time I sit down to write something new, it's like I'm almost rebirthing
I
myself.
100% agree.
And I think I think that it's interesting that most people that are outside of art, uh, although they might enjoy it, like people go to the theater and people read books and people listen to music, unless you've actually done it, I don't think you understand how much it takes out of you or how much it just takes to do this. You know, it's like I'm sure that you've experienced this before. You're writing this book, and you become so attached to these people that they're almost like your friends, and you have to kill one of them off, or you have to take this group of people into down this journey that hurts. Then you feel and you empathize with them, and you're writing this, and it's soul wrenching, and yet you're doing it willingly. And people don't realize how much it takes out of you, even if you're not taking those dark journeys, even if you're just writing it it's exhausting at
It
times,
is. It
but
is.
it's incredibly fulfilling.
Oh, I have tried many other things. I've had many jobs in my life. And even though, I mean, no job is perfect. We all know that. Nothing is perfect. I have frustrations with clients, and it just is the nature of the beast.
Yes.
But there's nothing in this world that I would rather do than write.
Exactly.
I can sit for hours and just write and rework a sentence to make it the way I want it to sound. And it makes me feel whole.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel whole before.
Right.
And it took almost 40 years of life and experiences for me to get to a point where I could say, I'm a writer. I make my living as a writer, and yay me.
Right.
But man, I finish every day, and I'm done.
Yes.
And now I'm going to read.
Right. And I've had people kind of knock me on this, but at the end of it's weird. I write for about 6 hours a day, and then I do other things, and like exercise and eat and normal human things. And then I have to sit down and watch television, because I have to let my brain go. I have to let my brain shut off.
Yes.
Because if I'm not doing that, if I'm not sitting down in front of a television or sleeping, my brain is thinking about writing 24/7. That's how it would be. So when I sit down in front of the television, my brain goes, oh, this is nice, because I let someone else take care of the art for me,
doing the story and entertaining me. Yeah.
And then
absolutely.
I turn the television off, I go lay down in bed, pull up my laptop, and I write some more.
It's I mean, yeah, I know.
You can't let go of it.
No, it doesn't stop. It's always there, like in the back of your mind, always.
Yeah. If I'm not writing, I'm thinking about writing.
Yeah. It's just, it's always there. I mean, I have notebooks that I carry with me. I have something with me at all times. I mean, voice memo works fine, but I've literally pulled my car over to the side of the road to jot some notes down on something that I've thought of.
Yeah.
I can't shut it off.
When I was writing Defying Gravity, which is my latest one, I had written myself into a major hole. And I was like, I didn't do it. The universe did. The universe said, this is where this book needs to go, and you've got to write it that way. I was like, shoot, I don't know if I want to do this, because it's completely against what the whole thrust of the book is. And I said, okay, universe, you know best. So I wrote it that way. And I went on a run the next day. And as I was running, I'm like, what am I going to do? I can't do this to this book. And a song came on, and I just said, I just got to let go and listen to the song. And as soon as the song was over, I stopped running. I pulled my phone out, and I said, this is what has to happen to this book. I sent myself an email, and I was like, that's it. The universe just told me why it wanted to send me down this path, because there was a big old nugget of gold down the end of that path.
Yes.
And had I not had my phone with me, I would, because I run with it all the time, I would like, how am I going to remember this? And I remember, and it reminded me of way back when I wrote my first steampunk novel. I had done the same thing. I had written myself into a hole and I didn't know what to do. And I didn't have any way. I was out for a run and I figured out what to do, and I didn't know how to remember that. So I picked up a stick and I ran the rest of the way. I don't remember how long the run was, but I carried this stick with me. And when I got home, I was like, why do I have this stick? Oh yeah. And I ran inside and
Yes.
took some notes, and I was like, thank God I had carried that stick with me.
Yes. I love, like, yes, that's absolutely, I mean, that's it. That's how it is. Like, you just, yes, I've written myself into a few holes and had similar, I'll just be doing something totally random.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid to walk away from a book.
Right.
Just set it aside and let it work its way out. And then I come back to it.
Right. I'm one that I've always trusted. Well, this goes back to my acting training. I in grad school, it was beaten over our head to trust our instincts. And so as a writer, I just 100% trust my instincts. And like I said, if the universe told me that this is where this book needs to go, that's where it has to go. And it is, and I have to trust that my instincts will know once I get to that place that I'll know how to get out of it. So I said write myself into a hole, but I don't ever like to think that. It's the same thing. And I know that I get some flack about this, but I don't think there is a such thing as writer's block.
I would agree with
I think when people are suffering from what they call writer's block, I think it happens from one of two things. The first thing is that they're not trusting their instincts. And the second thing is they're trying to write in a voice other than their own.
I would 100% agree with that.
And I think every time someone comes to me, a new writer says, I was writing, it was great, and then I hit a wall and I'm suffering writer's block. The first thing I say is, are you trying to force the story to go somewhere where it shouldn't go? And then if they say no, then I say, are you writing in your voice? Or are you trying to imitate someone else's voice? Because you can't do that. You can't write in someone else's voice.
No.
I mean,
because it'll
ring developing your voice.
Well, again, I would say probably the better part of the last 40 years. I mean, I started writing when I was very young, and you start out imitating writers that you appreciate and learning that. And I think ultimately you take pieces from people you admire because you develop your tastes probably before you develop your voice. And you need life experience to really develop any type of voice. I know that my voice has changed as some major things happened in my life. But I feel more true to myself now than ever before. You know, like I've been through some dark things, some difficult times, and now I feel like I've come out of it. But I still carry those bits with me because they never go away. You never get rid of all of that. You just heal.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would say my voice is probably still evolving.
And it will continue.
I think as I experience new things, and as I experience new things through the eyes of my children, as they experience different things, that colors how I look at everything and how I write things. I mean, my new teen book that I'm doing is definitely my kids' experiences, and the things that I see in their friends and things that I'm experiencing has colored some of what's going on. And I'm proud of that. And it's more their frustration over a lack of relatable books. I mean, not every girl is mad about falling in love with a boy, and that's the whole goal of their life. You know, like that's not it. Like these young women have bigger journeys. Yes, maybe boys may be a part of it, or maybe girls are a part of it, or maybe none of that matters to them because they just don't give a crap right now who you are. You know, they're not looking for love. Or, I mean, I just think everything's not so black and white.
Right. I
And
think,
this generation embraces that.
yeah, and it's really refreshing because for the longest time, society wanted to pigeonhole people into specific categories because for some reason it was afraid of anybody that didn't fit into the category. And what's interesting, I find, is I'm a member of Generation Z. I I was in high school in the 80s, and it was absolutely wonderful to be in high school during the 80s because self-expression became tantamount to freedom and joy because all of a sudden everything was all of the constraints were stripped away and we could wear what we wanted to wear, we could listen to whatever we wanted to listen to, we could be who we wanted, and we embraced that. And then oddly enough, when our generation became parents, we had no idea what to do. And then society just started kind of regressing and wanting to say, boys are blue and girls are pink, and that's it. There's nothing in between. And the millennial generation are like, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. There is a whole spectrum of colors in the rainbow, and we can be whatever we want. And it's so wonderful to see that.
I love it. I
I do
am
too.
I am I am that parent stoking the fire to that. I mean, I'm the
Yeah.
one who let my kid go and get her half of her head shaved and bleaching it blonde and doing all the different colors, and
Yeah.
I let my kids dress how they like. I mean, my son grows his hair out, cuts it off, donates it, and then grows it out again.
Yeah.
And like he people would mistake him for a girl sometimes because young boys
Yeah.
are, it's difficult, and he had that long gorgeous hair, and he would just say, I'm a boy and I'm growing my hair out to donate it.
Yeah.
And people would just be like, whoa. And he owned that, and he was just like, this is how it is. And I feel so good about this generation coming up and about what they're doing. The art they're creating is profound, and people try to dismiss it.
Yeah.
But it's loaded with the pain and pressures of what's going on around us right now. I mean, I have been at the high school and seen just some phenomenal pieces, and I've read, beautiful, painful glimpses of what's going on in this world, and the pressures, not just of social media, but of parents, of older generations, of wondering, am I going to have a job? Is the world going to survive for me to even get a job at this point? I mean, these kids are facing something that we didn't see. I mean, Gen Xer, like I wore what I wanted, and I did what, like, I don't know. I am enthralled with this upcoming generation. I think they are fascinating.
Yeah, I agree. And it also makes for us, it makes for us the ability to create even more interesting and profound art because we're not writing, because when we're writing teenagers now, we're writing teenagers that are far more worldly and educated than would be writing back in the 80s because we weren't that educated and worldly. But
No,
now
we
they
didn't have
are.
the access.
Yeah, we didn't. Exactly. I'm kind of glad we didn't. But now I think now is such an amazing time to be an artist. And it's at the same time, it's also a very disappointing time to be an artist because you have the ability to create the art. You have an infinite amount of inspiration, and yet at the same time, you have fewer and fewer people consuming the art.
Yes.
Because, and it's all cyclical. We know that right now, television is king or queen, and it will be for a while. And that's what people want to do with their downtime. There will always be readers. And I know that at some point readership will return to what it once was. But at the moment, has taken a very severe dip. And I think a big problem and I hate to say this, but a big problem is Apple started this. They started it with the 99-cent song and the
Yeah.
99-cent app and the free app. And people always assume that that content should be free, not realizing that someone had to create the content and needs to make a living off of the content. So,
oh yeah, there's no regard for that. I mean, none.
No. So people, there's this weird dynamic. People love art, but they don't value it enough to pay for it.
Agreed. It's my kids know that, you know, we struggle. Like I can't give them brand new cars like their peers,
Right.
but I'm here.
Yeah.
And I, you
And
know,
that's more important than a car.
and that, I mean, and that's the thing, like I'm here. Like, yes, I love what I do,
Yeah.
but I also get to be present with them.
Right.
And while other parents are out working to afford the brand new iPhone and the brand new car and all the other little things that they do, I'm actually here with my kids, taking them to their things, making all of their games and their meets and their productions and, you know, whatever else they do. But it would be nice if I got paid maybe just a little bit more, so it maybe wasn't quite so difficult.
Right.
You know, I mean, when you're looking at like 3 or 4 cents a word for a couple thousand words, that's several hours of work.
Yeah.
And do the math on that, you know, what do you actually get out of that?
Yeah, I remember when I first started as a tech writer, the rate for an article was astronomical. That was back in '99. And it didn't used to be, you weren't quibbling over cents per word at that time. And now it's like, you know, I get headhunted all the time. And when they say, hey, we'll pay you this much for a 1,000 word article, I'm like, yeah, no, thank you, but pass. I say it more graciously and professionally than that, but it's like, it's just like being an author and people are like, why aren't you making all your first books in your series free? Because I spent an inordinate amount of time creating them. And for the books that I published myself, I had to pay an editor to edit it. And, you know, I have invested a great deal, you know, and I just refuse to devalue that.
Well, and I mean, I like to turn it back on people and I say, you know, like, what do you do?
Right.
Okay, well, what if I said, you give me this much of your service for free, and I'll pay this much for the rest. Right. They don't like to hear that very much.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's what you're asking of me.
Right. Yeah. You don't get a first visit at a doctor for free.
No.
You don't. And, you know, it's like, this is my job. This is what I do. Words are my job. And I have worked very hard at this, and I should get paid for it. And, you know, but, you know, we could get into the business of writing in a completely different session, but, you know, it's still, even though we are in a period right now where there are fewer readers, it doesn't lessen my absolute desire to keep writing. I can't not create. I've tried it, and I am miserable when I'm not creating something, be it a play or a book, whatever. I have to create. That's who I am.
I'm the same way. I mean, I have in my bedroom, I'm, you know, looking at it right now, I have 2 closets. Mm-hmm. One closet is my clothes, and the other closet is actually a craft nook. I mean, I have my sewing machine set up all the time, and it's just loaded with patterns and pieces to make whatever. I mean, obviously lately I've been making a lot of masks. Mm-hmm. because people need them. But I don't even charge for those.
Right.
I'll give those away for free because
Sure.
I just want people to be safe.
Exactly.
I mean, I may take issue with some of the people who are making a lot of money off masks.
Right.
But, you know, to each his own. You're
Right.
still creating, and I respect that. But
Yeah.
I mean, I am always doing something. My son and I do furniture remodels together. Like, we repurpose furniture. Like, I just, that need to create is so tied to who I am as a person. I can't shut it off. I've tried, and it ends very badly.
Yeah. I think
for everybody.
you can almost boil it down to this. They're either creators or consumers. And I don't
Yes.
mean consumers as in the capitalist version of it. I mean consumers of those things that are created.
Right.
And I don't think I there might be some people, you know, hobbyists, I guess, that kind of live in the in between, but really you either have this irresistible impulse to create or you don't. And for those of us that do have that impulse to create, if we don't feed it, our souls wither up and die.
Mm-hmm. And we become very horrible people to live with.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I've had a desk job once in my life. No, twice in my life. And they were the worst periods I've ever experienced.
Oh, I did disability claims for 8 years.
Yeah.
8 years. And it was
probably felt like 80.
Yes. And I felt horrible all the time. And I absolutely was depressed. And the people around me didn't notice. Some people didn't care. It was more about the money than anything else.
Yeah.
And, you know, I learned a lot from that.
Yeah. And that's important because you come away from that having seen the other side. So
Mm-hmm.
you were more informed about that other side so you can better write about it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I just it was soul crushing to me. And I know people who love it and they're fine with it.
Yeah.
But it was soul crushing.
Yeah.
10 hours a day, sitting in a cubicle, no natural light.
Right.
That is
No.
No. My office is very light and bright and colorful, and
which is interesting when we write about those things. And anytime I've ever written about someone who existed in a cubicle farm, it is always soul crushing to them. I don't think I've ever written a character that loves working in a cubicle.
No, because I don't think I could relate to it enough to make it believable.
No. And I think that's important. We have to be able to relate to something to make it believable. Otherwise, why write it?
Right. Because it'll be fake. It'll feel false.
Exactly.
And I don't like that.
No, not at all.
I don't like that.
Well, I think that we're probably going to have to wrap up because Zoom is probably going to go, you're done. But anyway, what a pleasure it is to talk to you.
Oh man, it's so good to talk to you again. Now, I mean, it's nice. I miss our conversations. I miss seeing you at cons to be able to do that.
I know. It was always so wonderful just to be in your presence.
Oh, see, now I'm blushing.
You should. You deserve it. So tell me, anybody listening, tell them how they can find out more about you. Everybody should want to.
Well, yeah, I actually shut down my website and everything because I just want to go in a different direction, which I was working on before quarantine. So people can find me on Instagram and Twitter, Trace Broyles, at Trace Broyles on both, or at Violet Patterson. I still have those active on
you do
social media, but I haven't done a lot with them because now that my kids are older, I can bring everything back under my name and not worry about it. So probably going to do a massive rebrand here real soon.
Good. But they can still find your books on Amazon?
Yes, they're all still on Amazon.
And are they under your pseudonym?
They're all under my pseudonym, Violet Patterson.
Violet Patterson. They're steampunk, and what else?
like a paranormal romance adventure type deal.
Okay.
And then the offshoot is a steampunk book, which I have the second one just sitting there waiting for an edit and a cover.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah, I can't. I keep meaning to go back to my steampunk series, but the universe is saying, no, not yet. You got other things to take care of first.
Kind of, I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that in a big way.
Yeah.
Like, I'm almost feeling like it might be sort of very slow until I get my oldest off to college.
Yeah, I understand.
Which
that.
is close. So
good. Good. That's outstanding.
1 year, and then I should have that wrapped up, and it'll just be senior year and out. So
nice. And then once that's over, it'll be empty nesters, and you'll be a crazy bird lady.
Maybe I will be a crazy bird lady. Yeah. I don't know.
With a note.
Though I don't like birds. I might be a crazy bunny lady. Maybe bunnies, dogs.
Yeah, or maybe you like push around a library in a car.
I could do that. Just go to talk to people about books all day, every day. That would be awesome.
There you go.
Yeah. No, as long as I get my oldest out, my younger one is much easier. He's very laid back, very chill. His sports do not require nearly as much time. It's very nice.
Right.
And then we're out. We're moving to Colorado. So.
Oh man.
4 years.
I lived in Colorado and Boulder for a brief period. I'd move back in a heartbeat if it weren't so expensive there.
I love it. My parents live south of Denver in Castle Rock.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Boulder's a cool place. Or Denver.
Oh, I love it.
A cool place. Yeah, Boulder's amazing. It's
magical.
Boulder's a magical place.
It is.
And if it just weren't so expensive. We keep thinking we want to move to California, but it's because our sensibilities are more in line with California. But at the same time, it's like when you live near close to me.
Yes.
And in this part of the country, it's cheap.
It is, but
it's narrow-minded.
I feel like you pay emotionally in a really big way.
You do. There are days when I have been known in my life to wear some pretty crazy clothes, and there are days when I look in my closet, I'm like, man, I want to go out in public in this, and then I would go, I live in Kentucky. No. And I hate that because I'm not being honest with myself. I'm not being true to me. So and that's been a big part of my life for the longest time, is just being true to myself. And I feel like I can't be true to myself here. And maybe one of these days, I always tell my wife, as soon as I strike it rich, we're moving to California.
I can't wait to move west. Yeah. I can't handle the narrow-mindedness.
It's
and
terrible. It really is.
The lack of empathy and
I can't even go out in public here with a kilt on.
Which blows my mind. Well, you could hear, because there's a huge Irish element where I live. I mean, we have the Irish festival here. Oh, so nice. Yeah, it's canceled this year, unfortunately. Right. So
we have limit to the extent of our Irishness is bars, because of all the places I've lived in my life, I have never known a city to drink as much as Louisville, Kentucky. They are obsessed.
Yes, this is fair enough.
And so there are plenty of Irish bars here, and Scottish people and all that, and you never see them wearing kilts. It's like, come on, people, embrace your ancestry. But it's just this city is, it's a good city to live in. It's got great food. It's got a good heart, but its mind is it's got blinders on.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I feel here. It's just, and you can't even have a conversation with people about it.
No. And politically, I don't dare open my mouth when I step outside.
Exactly.
Because I am, well, that's not necessarily true. Louisville and Lexington are pretty cool politically, but you step outside of those cities and it's like, it is Trump country. And I can't open my mouth. I open my mouth enough on Facebook.
But I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, you know, maybe one of these days we'll get out of here and finally get to, we took a trip to San Francisco, and the first second that I was walking through that city, I was like, anything is possible in this city. Anything.
Yes.
And it was
Yes.
so refreshing. And it's like, I want to live in the city. And then you start looking at rent and mortgages.
Oh, yes.
I'm like, I saw a house whose mortgage was $10,000 a month. I'm like,
Yes.
no.
Yes.
And it was smaller. It was like a third of the size of the house that we live in. Like, I'm not going to do that. So we need to find that middle ground.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. Especially for a writer.
Yes. Maybe someday we'll strike a rich, and you know, it'll be fine.
It will be. All right. Well, Trace, it's been glorious, and I kick myself that it's been this long since we've talked.
I know. Thank you so much for reaching out.
Welcome. And I'll probably reach out again, because just talking to you is.
It's so, yes, we must do this more. I miss it.
We should. Anyway, thank you everybody for listening. And remember to look up Trace. She is not just a great writer, she is a fantastic human being. And you're better off. Your world is better knowing her.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Have a wonderful day, and I hope to talk to you very soon.
I hope so too.
Jack Wallen and Writer to Writer. Hopefully I'll continue with this damn series and I'll get more people on here. maybe not. Yeah. Who knows? Anyway, thank you very much, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.